This week on the Andrew Yang podcast.
You know, we're really good, we have been good at accruing financial capital. We study hard, work hard, get good jobs, go into finance, go into medicine, law, etc. It's not always been true that the perception is that we're cool. So it's like you have to take that financial capital and how about converting it to some sort of social, cultural capital? And that's what JoySauce is. It's that lever.
It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast for the very first time serial entrepreneur and now founder and CEO of the brand new media company. Yes, people are actually starting media companies still. JoySauce, Jonathan Sposato. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I am looking so forward to this conversation. I think we're going to have a lot of fun and just, talk about whatever.
Yeah, so you and I met in Seattle a few years ago, and it took me a minute. But I was like, wait a minute, this guy runs Seattle Business Magazine. This guy runs GeekWire, which is a tech publication. This guy has sold 2 companies to Google.
That's right.
He's got this interesting name, Jonathan Sposato, which would make one think, I don't know what other people think, but we all react this way. I was like, is this dude half Asian? But he looks like entirely Asian. And so there are all of these data points I was getting where I was like, what a fascinating, what a fascinating figure. And then you came and said, you're starting this media company that we're going to get into, JoySauce, which would love to hear what drove you to, because you could do anything under the sun, but what drove you to decide to start a media company, and what's the idea behind it?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a great intro, Andrew. Really appreciate that. I think the reasons that drove me to start this media company are exactly some of the personal reasons that you cited about how incongruous my own background is, right? Asian guy, Italian last name, born to a single mother. I could go on. I lived in Hong Kong, went to a British school run by Spanish nuns, right? So, and I think that it's not fitting into a box. And a guy like me is not supposed to start a TV channel. I hit my marks. Went to a good school and got respectable jobs. And when got tired of being in corporate America, I started being an entrepreneur and did startup companies.
But so one thing I love to ask people is because I'm now at this point a serial entrepreneur, but the thing I always like to ask people is that first one, because the first one, we didn't know what the hell was going on in our 20s, is in some ways the hardest. After you've done one, then the second or third, it gets a little bit
maybe for
easier.
You, Andrew. I don't know. They're all hard.
They're all hard.
And then
true.
You get older, so then you have that kind of a
what are you suggesting?
handicap.
You do. It's true. Like that. There's something I like in entrepreneurship to sports where you're an athlete for a while, and then eventually you become a coach or mentor. And in business parlance, that's investor, advisor, board member,
chair.
Whereas like when you're the founder, CEO, COO, salesperson, scrapper. So what was the first business?
Yeah, the first one was a games company that I started right out of college, and we sold it to Electronic Arts. And so that was, I wrote my first computer game when I was 13 years old on the Apple II, and I sold it professionally. There was a little there was a kind of a local maximum of these really cool game publishers in the Seattle area when I was like a teenager. And so I was very lucky. I'd go to these users groups and ran into the right people. And so I'm forever grateful to Bob Clardy, who recognized talent in a young teenager. And that's how I really got my start. That was always a hobby. That was always this thing that frankly I was in the closet about because, my Chinese mother wanted me to go to law school. My Italian father wanted me to go into business. And I was tracking I actually did this, took the LSAT, got into Columbia Law School, decided that may not be what I want to do. And so games was my passion. And so my parents got divorced at that point, and I thought I had nothing to lose. So I started a games company with 3 other friends, and we grew immediately to I think 42 employees in the first year. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you're in your 20s and all of a sudden you have 42 employees?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's wild. What was the game? Does anyone
there were a bunch of, we did games for the Sega Genesis. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. You're a little younger than I, so maybe You were a huge fan there. We did games on the 8-bit Nintendo NES, and then also the 16-bit, which I still called a Super Famicom by the Japanese.
What
name.
Sega Genesis games? Because I actually might know them.
There was one called Cyborg Justice. Which you can put together your own little cyborg, and somebody else could put together. And it was not like over LAN, or this was before multiplayer proper. Like
of course.
Played it on the same screen.
You were right there.
There was a Vanna White Wheel of Fortune. So there were some licensed games. There was even there was a really successful franchise of edutainment software called Storybook Weaver. And then there were things like that I mean, we grew very fast precisely because the word got out that we were a talented shop, and we were cross-platform. So those were some. I mean, I mean. Okay. Sometimes I forget the list of.
So you co-founded a game development studio back in, and I remember. The Sega Genesis, and it was pre-online gaming, so to speak. It was just you and your buddy in the living room.
That's right.
And so you run that business for how long? And then that business ends up getting acquired?
Yeah. It was actually almost 4 years. It was a short one, and it got acquired by Electronic Arts. So for years, when EA would talk about, we have an office in Seattle, that's what it was. And I would say that you asked about what
So does that mean that you got rich in your mid-late 20s?
Well, okay. So the short answer is no-ish, because pre-internet, pre-giant valuations, and so you
normal numbers,
3x. Maybe I don't even know that we got somewhere between 3 to 4x a multiple on your annual run rate. I had to split it across 4 people, which was great. Yeah. But I bought. I was able to do things like take care of my mother and
wow. To be able to do that in your 20s is wild.
It is a little bit wild, but these things, we get inspired by people we look up to, people we're friends with. And I think I was on a ski trip with my roommate and her really wonderful a female Taiwanese American engineer, and we went, and I was so jealous of her because while my colleagues were nerdy gamer types, her colleagues were these cool sort of skier types, and her CEO was this really, really charismatic guy, and we would just downtime when we weren't skiing, he would talk about like, Jonathan, here's how I think I'm going to sell my company. And he had like what it was. It was like the name of the product was Internet in a Box. And beyond that, I don't remember much about it, just that the branding was good. And he was telling me about the mergers and acquisitions process. Now, growing up, my dad's not an investment banker. Sure. I wasn't really around that stuff. And so that was my quick lesson that here's a guy that's a little bit older than I, who is now about to sell his company for, $50 million at the time. I was like, that's how you do it. That's the playbook. And so, and I don't want to give your listeners the wrong idea. I never create the value thinking that I'm always going to sell it. I always create the value wanting to hang on to it for as long as I can, to deliver value to the community and to the world. And if selling is an option, you contemplate it, but that's not always the end goal.
I don't talk about that much on this podcast. So I was the CEO and part owner of a company that was acquired by a public company when I was 34 years old.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have any designs on selling. Just there were some circumstances that made it make more sense. I had a lot of ups and downs before then. So my 20s were not nearly as successful as yours.
I doubt
that. No. That's verifiable.
What I'm not telling you about, Andrew, was the struggle, the stress. I had nothing mattered after that because that was my crucible of fire.
I felt so. My crucible of fire actually burnt me up in my 20s, where I started a .com that flopped. I joked it had its mini rise and maximum fall. Mm-hmm. And so then I was a failed entrepreneur, and my parents would just lie to their friends and say I was still a lawyer because no one likes to have their kids be a failure in the Asian world. So for me, it was about a decade after I left the law firm before my parents were psyched about me professionally. Mm-hmm. And that, as you can imagine, those are very formative years between, let's call it 25 and 35. So, and I used to look on people like you, though we didn't know each other then, obviously, but it's like, oh my gosh, like look how much that person's achieved at such a young age. And like, you know, I was doing 3 jobs at that time.
Yeah.
I was working
Wow.
at a startup, and I was a nightclub promoter, which now is kind of handy now that I'm having parties
It's all
again.
making sense now, Andrew.
And I also was a test prep tutor. Those were like my
Yeah.
So I
knew
had
that
2
about
side
you.
hustles,
Yeah.
and then I ended up the CEO of that education company, and then that was a company that was bought. And so
Yeah,
when I was 34, then I became like a conventional entrepreneurial success story where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you know, the company got bought, and then that was the first time I'd come into any money, and I'd spent my entire 20s and part of my 30s being really frugal.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden
Which is
having a windfall, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do anything. Like, look at all this money. And, you know, and it didn't.
All right, we got to have this conversation. Sorry to interrupt you, but
please.
what did you blow your money on? Or maybe you didn't blow it. You socked it away and it grew. And,
So I did not blow my money. What I did blow my money on was starting an entrepreneurship nonprofit, and this is what. And I worked for free, and I donated $120,000 of my newfound money. And so here's I kind of overreacted, John, where I made a certain amount of money, and in my case, I don't know how public any of this stuff is, but whatever. It's like in the low millions, but you know, plural.
Yeah.
and so. I thought, oh my God, I'm like I can do anything. I'm like superpowered.
Yeah.
So then I seeded this nonprofit and then went without salary because I was like, you know, because I'm so flush, I should just do whatever I want, completely devoid of any economics. And I kind of insisted on not paying myself for over a year because like I wanted to feel completely at liberty. And that's been also something of a recurring theme for me where like when I made a change, you know, it meant going without income for a certain period. I was a little bit rash in the scheme of things because I started Venture for America when I was in my mid 30s, and I was engaged but not married at that time, no kids. And so I thought that, okay, this money is going to last me forever. Like I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But then you get a house and a car and a kid and then another kid.
Maybe parents
and
are
then
getting older.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like that money I made like isn't going to just be infinite.
We've all been there. And I have seen it. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen it happen at almost every level. However, it doesn't matter how many zeros, you sort of expand and contract, or you flirt with sort of your near dot envelope of like, wait, I'm not as immortal as I thought I now if I do this next thing, if I get this big capital asset or invest deeper into this other thing, my next venture, I have to die at the age of 87 instead of 97, right? You start getting into that zone, and everybody, I've seen it.
I've seen it because you've been around a ton of entrepreneurs who've exited because, you know, you're in Seattle and now you've been part of the scene and you've exited multiple times and all this other stuff. But I'm mildly fascinated, and you and I are both hoops guys. Where you're, I think, friends with Detlef Schrempf, which I think is the coolest thing in the world.
Next time you're in Seattle, man, Detlef, we're gonna hang out with Andrew.
Detlef Schrempf.
Yeah.
So I've always been fascinated by these stories of athletes going broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you see it. I think a lot of people, I don't know if you guys all share my fascination with that. But you talk about how most people, you put any amount of money in their hands, they'll start kind of going up to the line.
Yeah.
I've seen the same thing. And I've always prided myself on not being someone who like really needs a lot of material things, and that if I had a level of flexibility and resources, then I would do something purposeful with it.
Yeah, I love that about you.
So when I decided to run for president, I mean, you know, it was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, you know, and thank you for everyone who supported that run. But there was something of like a, you know, like non-economically prudent decision in terms of, you know, short term, but then like I just believed we're going to do a lot of good, and who gives a crap. And like there's like been this persistent desire on my part to feel like money ain't a thing. It'll be fine. I'll always figure it out. It'll just like, you know, the rest of it. Thank you, listeners. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, send them to mailbag@andrewyang.com, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you. I'm not much of a cook. I enjoy getting my meals. It takes a lot of consideration, and I don't like to think very much. There are a number of things I don't like to do. And when you get a Factor meal, you know it's going to be tasty, healthy. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready to eat. Just heat them up in a few minutes, and you will be eating fresh, healthy food in no time. My favorite is the horseradish encrusted chicken. And I have to say, like, you can tell the meals are healthy even as they taste great. You know that sweet spot? That's what these meals hit. Get started at factormeals.com/yang50off and use code yang50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code yang50off at factormeals.com/yang50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/yang50off. And I feel like you're cut from the same cloth, where JoySauce feels like a meaningful swing that's born of like purpose and values.
Yeah, I do think it's there's a phrase in philanthropy, which is when you've made a couple of bucks, you're scratching your head going, how much should I give to this cause that I really believe in? And a standard phrase back from a lot of development officers is give till it hurts, right? It should hurt a little. And I feel that way about how much you lean into the thing that you believe in, the thing that you're passionate about, your next startup. So I am swinging big with JoySauce, and I have allocated quite a bit of my own personal capital to the extent that it kind of hurts.
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling.
Yeah, and the reason why I believe in it is because, I know you and I talk about this stuff a lot. There's some good things happening, but there still is not enough Asian American representation in media. The number of speaking roles in movies and TV today, even after everything that's happened with, sort of a little bit of a renaissance that we saw, I wouldn't characterize it as a blip. I'd characterize it as a wave that has a natural sort of a little bit more of a dip now. Like it's kind of like quiet, getting a little bit. So point being is that after all that, we're still 2.7% of all speaking roles in TV and film. Right.
And proportion of the population, I think we're between 6 and 7.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that is something that I want to do something about. And if you look at it, you can look at the data differently, which is that with African Americans, there's a very, very respectable, I think it's like 1.6 trillion in spending power. And they have about 23 channels, TV channels, linear, digital streaming. With Hispanics, it's like over 40 something, and also a very respectable like 1.8 trillion total spending power. LGBTQ, I think it's also like maybe a little lower, like 1.2 as a community, maybe younger, and there are like 7 or 8 with Asian Americans, and I think this is sandbagging the data a little bit. 2.2 trillion in spending power, 0 TV channels.
Did you see that Bowen Yang and Nate Bargatze told a joke about this at the Emmys the other day?
I saw it, and I literally immediately the next day I had a meeting with a bunch of Amazon execs to just kind of tie up some loose ends, and I opened my meeting with that clip, and I worked on like kind of getting like a little short. I didn't make them watch the whole thing, but yeah, that was amazing.
All right, so this is one reason why I find your swing with JoySauce so fun and positive and meaningful. Because check it out, you're a super savvy serial entrepreneur business person.
Thank you.
And most people would be like, hey, if you want to make money, media would not be the move.
Right.
And Asian American media would definitely not be the move, given that Asian Americans have never had or supported a media network.
Yeah, you said that before, and I guess we'll prove whether who's right. Yeah.
Well, this is because like I've been Asian American, obviously my whole life, and I have been exposed to some of the early attempts at a media organization that supported us.
Yeah.
So for the Asians or non-Asians, whatever. There was something called A Magazine in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right.
There's something called Asian Avenue that was like an early community that was started by guys I used to party with.
Yeah.
And then they then started Black Planet, which became much, much more successful.
Yeah.
And the Asian
Yeah.
Avenue
Right.
thing was like, kind of an afterthought in the context. So the company was called Community Connect.
Yeah.
There have been some other
Giant Robot.
Giant
there are
Robot,
a
the
lot of things like
magazine.
that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, magazines. There used to be a few. But nothing has really stood the test of time. Nothing has stuck. And so you, as an experienced, savvy business person, there are other ways to make your money add up.
Yeah.
That would be...
Yes, there are. Absolutely, there are. Yeah, right.
So you've invested, is it $5 million to date?
Yeah, almost 5. Yeah, that's right.
Which is, a real chunk of change for just about anyone.
Yeah.
And what has that money gone into? And then what does the business look like? And to the extent that someone is interested, like how would they watch JoySauce?
Yeah, that's right. So the first question, I'd say the money has gone into creating programming and shows, right? So that's reality TV shows, unscripted stuff and scripted stuff, sitcoms. There's a JoySauce late night talk show that, you could be you're going to be a guest on. Yeah, it's literally the first and only all Asian American late night talk show, from the writers to the people working the cameras to the hosts to cold open skits to the musical acts. So it's like this what if scenario. What if there was this nice, beautiful, amazing parallel universe where everyone looked Asian? And I'm going to bookmark the why behind all of this.
Yeah, sure.
We have movies, we have all kinds of fun stuff, stand-up comedy. We assembled the most amazing lineup of all Asian American stand-up comics, and so we have over 500 hours of this programming. Much of it is original programming that's where the money went, and also a lot of it is licensed or second windowed content. So when I worked at Microsoft, when I was in corporate America, one of the things that I worked on, I was one of the early co-founders, first 6 or 7 people sitting around speccing the Xbox, right? And so what I learned from doing that is the platform strategy. If you are willing to be ambitious and you make it good, and you also make it super, super easy and friction-free for other content providers to plug in, for other game developers to plug into your platform, you win. And so that's what we're doing here with JoySauce. Is I want to create the channel, the platform, exercise some of Don Norman's emotional design stuff. Put a little Steve Jobs energy into it, meaning make it emotionally resonant, make it cool, sort of err on the side of aiming a little bit more youthful and edgy and young, just like MTV did when they launched, and
I
just like
remember
BET. Exactly. And we totally are emulating their playbook, both MTV's playbook and BET's playbook, so that the young people like it, and then older people also like it because they just want to be younger. They want to be reminded of their youth. So if we do that and create this platform and then make it easy for other content providers to plug in. I love that when we were doing some video and some cool things with you, some fun things with you, and thank you again, that our other friend, Brian Yang, just stopped by. I'm not actually sure when he showed up with his kids. I wasn't sure if he was there to talk to you or to me or Narumi, but who was the producer on the shoot. But he was like, He's a good example of someone who's had a great career in Hollywood. He's a producer, director, actor. He's done a lot of stuff, and then his mindset has shifted to like, oh my God, this is like JoySauce is not like a one and done. It's not one show. It's not a series. It's a platform, and it might be nice to have a relationship here and see how I can actually, I think at the time he thanked me for paying a nice licensing fee for one of his movies.
Yeah, about Jeremy Lin, Brian Yang, something you in the Yang Gang know, Brian. He's an awesome friend who's been one of the OGs in Asian American hoops and some other things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you take $5 million, you invest in, license, develop content programming. So most of the people listening to this or watching this right now are thinking, okay, so do I see this on YouTube? How would I consume it?
So that's the other half of the entire investment thesis, which is the way in which there's been a giant and kind of silent-ish sea change in the way that people are looking at consuming TV, right? So, and I want to define TV classically as, it is the big screen that's in your living room that the family gathers around, not your iPhone or something like that. Although obviously that's a main source of consumption as well. So the sea change has been this giant shift away from obviously cable, and also even away from paid subscription services. And the problem is because if you add them all up, you want your Star Wars, so you have your Disney Plus, or maybe you don't want it so much anymore these days. But you want your Star Trek, so you want your Paramount. So you want your
So what you're suggesting is that we had cable, it got very expensive, so we cut the cord, and then we had streamers. But then we realized, wait a minute, I have 3 streamers, and I'm not watching them, so
I'm paying hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
By the way, most of us are familiar with this particular arc because we have experienced it. We've lived it.
Yeah.
And so then where have people landed after they got rid of Hulu or whatever?
Yeah. So the data that we have is that almost half, and the data was sampled earlier this year, so it's probably crossed the 50% mark. So if you're a young person, well, let me finish the data point. Over half of viewership in North America is over FAST, FAST, or free advertising supported TV, that is already sort of OEM'd, if I use an old...
original equipment manufacturer.
That's right. That's already sort of embedded on any brand new TV that you buy. So if you buy a new Sony or a Samsung or an LG TV, all you need is to connect it to the internet. You don't need cable. You don't need Disney Plus or Hulu or Netflix. So
is this Tubi? Is this Pluto? So what you're saying is that the TVs come with this app or template, which most of us have seen, like, oh, what's Tubi? What's this?
Yeah, that's right.
And every once in a while you see an ad that says, like, this movie's for free on Tubi. And you're like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So it's Amazon, it's Pluto, Tubi, Zumo.
When you say Amazon, you mean Amazon Prime?
Yeah, well, yes, you can onboard to a Prime thing, but they have actually a fast
just on the TV and just be like, hey, it's Amazon. Is it called Amazon or is it called something else?
It's called Amazon. And when you turn it on, it's on. And then you can't pause it. You can't go back. But you can pick the channel that you want. And so in the fast world, here's the interesting thing, is that it tends to aggregate to very specific things. Like there is a Baywatch channel. There is you'll even love this one. There is a Bob Ross channel. The entire thing is Bob Ross.
You know what makes this makes me think of, John? There's a Shawshank Redemption channel where they just play the Shawshank Redemption over and over again. And by the way, I would watch that channel. Like wherever it is in the movie, like I'd come in and watch it. This podcast is sponsored by Helix Sleep. I have been a proud, happy Helix Sleep customer for years now because my mattress just keeps on giving. I've always been someone who thought, you know what, you should invest in a proper mattress because you're on your back or your belly or your side for 8 hours a night. So I ordered an Ultra Dawn firm mattress and it has been a game changer. I've had it for, now years, and I'm telling you, total transformation. Go to helixsleep.com/yang for 25% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/yang for 25% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/yang. Okay, so fast channels live on everyone's TVs, and you're saying that's what half of people are now defaulting to when they watch TV?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because frankly, young people, when they get their first apartment or whatever, their first job, they buy a TV. They don't want to have $300 plus of cable plus.
Yeah, they can't afford it.
I mean, they can't afford it. So here's this free way that they can get like really good content now, and they get to pick kind of their mood or their vibe, so to speak, right? And then I think underlying all this, which tracks back to why JoySauce, curious to know if you felt this way. I yearned for Asian faces when I was growing up. Seriously, I would watch TV.
What I would tell you, as a little kid, I would jump up and down and try and get my mom, whenever an Asian was on the screen that was not Connie Chung because she was
Yeah.
sort of frequent enough where it wasn't a big deal. But other than that, it was like,
Yeah. I mean, it was like, it was kind of so bad.
Now we're in commercials. It's quite pleasant.
Yeah, right. That's right. But like you'd be watching anything, Barney Miller. Oh, this shows you how old I am. Barney Miller. There'd be, oh my God, there's an Asian guy, Jack Sue. Or you'd be watching Quincy, and there was like an Asian guy that was his colleague.
I've got sort of like I do remember that because I grew up, and there was like Long Duck Dong was probably the most prominent.
Painful,
and the rest of it. But I will say, fast forward to today, you see Asian faces like fairly often now in commercials,
often,
TV, the rest of it. But I think one of the things that's missing is what JoySauce is trying to provide, which is like there isn't like a consistent platform or resources for creatives and creators in that way.
Yeah.
Where what happens often, I think, is that let's say you had a BET or Telemundo or Univision or whatnot. They're like there are people that create in that universe, and then sometimes it reaches other audiences. Sometimes it is mainstream. But then it ends up being this kind of supportive feeding ground and a consistent place for people who want to support those creators or watch that content.
That's right.
And that doesn't really exist for Asian Americans, which to your earlier point is like, look, there's an affluent group. It's got 6 to 7% of the population, and there are somehow zero
2.2 trillion.
And there's somehow zero channels. You're like, well, that doesn't make much sense. And so you've decided to change that. So then you've invested this $5 million, and it's about to be made available on Amazon's FAST channels.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then soon the other carriers, things like Pluto and others. Actually, and even on YouTube, there is an instantiation of YouTube that is FAST also.
Ooh,
that is always on.
Say more.
Yeah, and we're gonna be there as well. And so I think I say this. In order for us to stand with greater stature, all fine and good that we're in commercials and some speaking roles, and then on occasion, like you see Ali Wong and Stephen Yoon on a show, right?
Yeah,
wonderful. But in order for us to truly stand with greater stature and walk with more swagger and to dance with more joy, we need to create our own world, our own platform, because nobody else is going to do it for us. I think one of the things that you and I had talked about in the past, and you very eloquently stated, we're really good, we have been good at accruing financial capital. We study hard, work hard, get good jobs, go into finance, go into medicine, law, etc., business, decent at making money. But, I guess I'll just say this really bluntly, it's not always been true that the perception is that we're cool. So it's like you have to take that. You're the exception here, Andrew. But you take the financial capital. You said this. You take that financial capital, and how about converting it to some sort of social, cultural capital? And that's what JoySauce is. It's that lever to finally sort of to create the world that we want to see. And again, I'll be really honest, and hopefully this doesn't offend anyone. I remember being a teenager and being Asian, obviously, and I had to kind of make a decision right around junior high, whether I was going to be sort of like white or black, right? There was kind of no in between. I didn't know how to be Asian cool or whatever, right? I saw what my parents, and my aunts and uncles looked like, and that was great. They're great people, but I would watch BET and be jealous. I'm like, that's an amazing culture, rich with so much to offer their give back to the community, to give young people in their community to aspire to, and I didn't feel like that we had that, and so I want JoySauce to be that sort of. I someday, I hope, my dream is for non-Asian kids to sit around a TV, turn on JoySauce, and be like, God, those Asians are cool.
That's such an awesome vision. I definitely watched BET and thought like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to, because black culture at that time, probably still to this day, but black culture at that time kind of defined what cool was.
Yes, I know.
And so if you were an Asian guy and you didn't want to be a nerd, and I resemble
Yeah.
this too. Did I listen to Public Enemy and
Heck yeah.
hip hop? Like, heck yes. Like, did that define? And part of it too was that I think a lot of hip hop was very masculine, somewhat angry, somewhat rebellious and whatnot. And then when you were a teenage boy, you're like, it felt like the choice you had was either lie down and be a nerd or try and rebel, but there was no other model for rebellion. And so you would, enjoy black culture. So I definitely resemble that. And, I played basketball in a weekly run for most of my 20s and 30s. And the rest of
I've seen you. You've got game.
Oh, thanks for saying so. I mean, maybe in past tense at this point, but the knees are not what they used to be. But there are kids like growing up now. I look at my kids, and you're a parent as well, and like I actually study my two boys and think like, are they experiencing the same things I experienced?
Yeah.
And
what do you see?
They are not experiencing the same version. I mean, I think that there's always some self doubt or self perception or whatnot that's probably like just endemic to childhood. But their sense of their own identity is very, very different and than mine was. And they're growing up in different circumstances. There are a lot of things that have changed. One of the things, though, that I certainly appreciated when I was running for president was Asian American families would come up to me and be like, "Oh, thank you for
100%,
making us feel seen, like we belong, represented." I mean, heck, someone said that to me, yesterday. I mean, I get something like that a lot of days, and I'm very proud of it. I'm like, happy to. By the way, I have said, I don't know how much this has come up, but it's like sometimes I say yes to going on TV just because it's like, well, there aren't that many Asian dudes they have on TV, so I should just be on, like maintain like a sense of familiarity or presence.
Okay, I'm sorry to pause you there,
Please.
But I want to acknowledge something, which is that you will forever be known for that. It's like Rocky have gone the distance, and win, lose, or place, you will always be remembered for that, and the community will always be proud of you. And that's my way of kind of a little bit tagging back to JoySauce. It's like the fine details of what our margins are going to be, or what sort of kind of in some ways are I won't get into the technical details of the business model, but a lot of the specific KPIs matter a little less to me now. I'm sort of a little bit more playing jazz with this one than I am classical. You know what I'm saying?
I think I understand.
Just hit the right chords. It's got to have the right feeling, and it's got to get to the right place. It's got to, and stop at the right time. Those things matter, but I have a same sense of, win, place, or fail. Like, we pull this off, right? And so you and I are completely mission aligned, and I will here publicly personally thank you for totally pushing forward and giving us that visibility at that level at that time. And so thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN. How did you choose which internet service provider to use? The sad thing is, most of us didn't have much of a choice because ISPs operate a lot like monopolies in the regions that they serve. They then use this monopoly position to take advantage of customers, and yes, they even sell your data, your activities to advertisers and big tech companies, and you don't see a dime. That's why I protect my internet surfing and devices with ExpressVPN. When you use ExpressVPN, it's like a magic portal to a perfectly safe and anonymous internet. And don't take my word for it. This is the #1 VPN service according to CNET. It's used by major companies all over the world. So stop handing over your personal data to ISPs and other tech companies who then mine your activity and sell off your information. Protect yourself with a VPN I trust to keep my privacy online. Visit expressvpn.com/yang. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/yang expressvpn.com/yang to get 3 extra months free. Go to expressvpn.com/yang right now to learn more. I love what you're doing, and I know where it's coming from, like, because they're a lot easier hills to climb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm 100% someone who occasionally decides to take on a very difficult climb, because I just think it's important.
Yeah.
It's like and sometimes, other people might regard it as like, hey, like there are easier ways to make money than that particular mountain. And they'd be like, well, like money matters and I like it, but I like other things more.
Yeah,
other
right.
things more.
That's right.
Or if you've made a certain amount of money, it's like, what am I really going to be using this money for, if not for something I believe passionately in. But it has been a pleasure getting to know you in the course of JoySauce, because like you're clearly a very, very smart, strong, experienced operator.
Coming from you, means a lot.
And then you're leading with your own example and resources. So I'm excited to see JoySauce hit the airwaves, or the current version of the airwaves.
Be on TVs,
be on TVs, and see it. Not, like I actually know some of the people that are on screen or creatives or behind the camera. And I'm sure there's some people watching or listening to this who are also eager to check it out. So the way to do so is to go on the FAST channels that are embedded on your TV?
Yeah, that's right. And so look for Amazon. That will be first. And then, so look for us in October. And we're building it over time. So we have over 500 hours of programming, and that's plenty. That's plenty. The minimum number of hours usually for launching a 24/7 linear channel is about 150 hours.
Fascinating.
So yeah. So and so we're adding and we're acquiring and creating new content all the time.
And if someone wants to just follow JoySauce on social media or watch you on YouTube, can they do those things?
They can. So JoySauce Official is our Instagram handle. And also you can check in on us at just pure and simple joysauce.com, which has been going for about 2 years. And it's really incisive written editorial focus on Asian American pop culture. And nothing makes me more proud than someone coming up to me on the street if they find out I'm affiliated with JoySauce, that they derived a lot of value out of reading it and inspired by it. So
well, the brand vision is really well done. I'd urge anyone to check it out and see how Jonathan is trying to build this brand and build this channel. And I'm excited to be here for the founding and everything that's going to come after. And who knows? Maybe I'll make a guest appearance on various programs and shows.
I think my bet would be that would happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I might even appear in some of the ads that air between the programs.
Yeah.
Jonathan Sposato, JoySauce.com. Is there any other way that people can keep up with you or even reach out?
Well, I think the best way is, I'm not very good on LinkedIn. So maybe the best way is just on my socials, on Instagram, at Jonathan Sposato. That's
Jonathan Sposato. You can check him out. He has one name. He has a different face.
Yeah.